Hello, and welcome to Crypto News. Today is May 4th, 2025, and here are the top cryptocurrency news stories. And we're going to Arizona, where Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs has vetoed a bill that would make Bitcoin a reserve currency. She says she's concerned about the use of public funds for unregulated financial assets. Her statement can be found at X. So in Arizona, we have this big obstacle to seeing Bitcoin become a reserve currency. Moving on from Arizona, we'll go to our companies. First, we'll look at Google, which is integrating ZK-proof technology, a technology developed by the cryptocurrency market, into its services. Specifically, Google is integrating zero-knowledge proofs into its wallet as an authentication solution, according to a recent announcement. The digital ID will be launched first in the UK, but will soon enter the United States and other countries. At this point, Google is not using blockchain behind it. It has simply integrated this technology to serve its purposes. And we see that the technologies developed in the cryptocurrency market are gradually being used in areas outside of cryptocurrency, which is something we want to see if we want the adoption that we keep talking about. From Google, we will go to JPMorgan and see what they have done with their own blockchain. Let's say that JPMorgan added payment support for British pounds to the Kinexys payment network, which is the blockchain that JPMorgan owns and uses internally. This was done by the bank because it saw a gap in the market and wanted to fill it. And let me remind you that JPMorgan has had this blockchain since 2019 and has been slowly developing it for its internal operations. And let's say that this blockchain processes nearly $2 billion in daily transactions, so JPMorgan has certainly found a use for its own blockchain. And our last company for today is Apple, which seems to be relaxing the rules. Now, cryptocurrency apps are free to direct users to payments outside of Apple's ecosystem without restrictions or obligations. This comes after a US district court ruled that Apple violated a court order in its antitrust lawsuit with Epic Games. So now, that's a good thing, because apps developed for Apple no longer have to use its own systems. They can use a blockchain or other cryptocurrency-based solution for payments. And from our companies, we're gonna go, once again, to everyone who's buying Bitcoin. First, we go to Brown University, which is buying Bitcoin through BlackRock. Specifically, it bought $5 million in shares of the BlackRock ETF and owns 105,000 shares. So this university is buying a lot of Bitcoin. Moving on, we go to Metaplanet, which is looking for $25 million to buy more Bitcoin. And finally, the company Thumzup wants to buy a lot more Bitcoin than it already has. This company started buying Bitcoin at the beginning of the year. It's already bought $1.8 million in Bitcoin and is now offering $200 million in shares and other assets to raise money to buy more Bitcoin. And from these companies, we go once again to Ethereum, where Mr. Vitalik wants to make Ethereum as simple as Bitcoin in 5 years, please. So Mr. Vitalik presented a vision that he had for the reorganization of the Ethereum architecture in all its elements, based on consensus, execution, and sharing. Everything that I'm telling you is described in a post, and he said that this statement will describe how Ethereum, in 5 years from now, can become as simple as Bitcoin, and he claims that simplicity is the key to Ethereum's flexibility and long-term expansion. So below I will have, of course, in the description, the statement that Mr. Vitalik wrote about how Ethereum will become, in 5 years, as simple as Bitcoin. The only question I have is that this is the renewed Ethereum roadmap, which will make Ethereum much faster, decentralized, and include anonymity and all those good things that we like. But because the Ethereum network wants to do more things than Bitcoin, obviously they will be much more complicated, and we are talking about much more complicated. So the question I have is how, in 5 years, that is, by 2030, Mr. Vitalik will be able to do everything that I am showing you in front of your screens, and whether he will actually be able to make Ethereum as simple as Bitcoin. At this point, I would like to remind you that in terms of the Ethereum roadmap, we are in the second box just above the middle, if I understand correctly, where we are right now. So we are not sure if by 2030 this roadmap will be completed, and only then we might see the simplification. And from Ethereum, we cannot avoid going to Layer 2, where the base is also a Layer 2, which is currently in Stage 1. As we have seen in previous episodes of Crypto News, Mr. Vitalik wants Ethereum Layer 2 to be in Stage 1 of decentralization. imagine. Let's say that according to Mr. Vitalik, Layer 2 has 3 stages: Stage 0, Stage 1, and Stage 2. By Stage 2, that means that these Layer 2 are fully decentralized, more or less. And those who haven't managed to reach Stage 1 will be called or considered failures, etc. So according to L2Beat, Base, Arbitrum, Optimist, Unicane, Scroll, and 2 or 3 others have reached Stage 1. So let's say they are fully decentralized for now, according to Mr. Vitalik. In the future, of course, we would like them to reach Stage 2. And moving on for the last part of our day, which is not so much about the cryptocurrency market, but it is a big event. We learned that Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of his generation, will step down as CEO at the end of the year. Essentially, he will remain with the company as an advisor. And it's time to return to our beloved cryptocurrency market, with Bitcoin sitting at $95,000. Expecting to see some movement on Monday. That wraps up the top news for crypto today. Is May 4th, 2025. I'd like to remind you that the content you just watched is created for educational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice, but rather as investment opinion. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and feel free to comment. Take care everyone, and have a good day.